Well, hi, I'm Steph, a student that does IGCSEs at Wolsey Hall, and I'm here to show you my steps to preparing and completing an assignment.
Step 1. Canvas.
This is the app or website where you're going to get all the information and material you need to learn for your subjects. It is your ultimate learning source. On Canvas, you can do your modules and quizzes, turn your assignments in, receive your assignment marks, and message your tutors for any help. Canvas will be your best friend.
Step 2. Modules.
Every subject contains more or less 9 modules. Every module consists of topics where it gives you tasks you need to complete. Most module work will require you to read some pages, do various questions, and jot down some notes. For my first topic in Economics Module 5, I'll need to work through pages 124 to 125 in my course book. Then I'll need to write out some key points. And then I'm going to have to check out this website they have linked. I usually like to note down any new definitions that I've just learned into my notebook, and I also write down any extra information that I need to remember.
Step 3. Quizzes.
At the end of each module, there is a quiz that awaits to be completed. This quiz is there to test your knowledge from what you've just learned. These quizzes are usually multiple choice, which makes it quite easy and super fun. It is definitely a great way to revise for your upcoming assignment, as you can retake them as many times as you want.
Step 4. Revision and preparation.
Before doing the assignments, it is important to revise and review everything you have just learned one last time. You can even do the quiz once more to make sure that you are fully prepared to do the assignment. Right before I start my assignment, I like to organize my desk space. I put out my assignment, my notebook, and a pen. And if I need to use my computer, I put that out as well.
Step 5. Assignments.
Now it's time to start. Every assignment has an instruction page where it will instruct you to either complete it under exam conditions or if it is an open book assignment. It will also show the recommended time limit. However, you don't need to follow this as it is just an assignment. On my economics assignment 5, instructions, it says that I need to write on lined paper using a black pen. It also further says to upload your work on Canvas. However, it doesn't say anything about working in exam conditions, so this is an open book assignment. After I finished my assignment, I scan it on an app called Cam Scanner and then send it directly on Canvas.
Step 6. Marks and feedback.
Usually, marks and feedback from your tutor will be given back to you within a week. The feedback you get from your tutor is very helpful as it tells you what you've done correctly and what you must improve on. With the feedback, you also get the specimen answers sheet, which gives all the answers to the assignment. And to make the most of my feedback, I do the questions that I've gotten wrong once more. This is just to make sure that I've understood the module and won't do the same mistake twice.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this secondary level Wolsey Hall Oxford homeschooling information event. I hope you enjoyed meeting Stefania there. Stefania is one of our IGCSE students, so she's preparing for her IGCSE exams, and you saw a little bit about how she actually approaches an assignment, so hopefully you found that interesting. So big welcome to everyone. We've got families joining us from all over the world today. So yeah, whether it's morning, afternoon or evening, we want to welcome you all to join us today. I'm Lynn Stacey, Marketing Manager here at Wolsey Hall Oxford. Just to let you know as well, we will be recording this event and we'll send out links. It'll come out via the Zoom automated emails that you've been getting reminding you of the webinar. So look out for them. It won't come under a Wolsey Hall address. And it will have a recording, link to the recording for you in that. That'll come in the next 2 or 3 days, probably. So this event is primarily aimed at students with, aged 11 to 18. We do have another event on the 26th of November, which is for all levels, which would include our primary students as well, from ages 4 to 18. So if you're interested in younger ages as well, then please do come along to that one. You'll be able to find the links on our website for that. The format for today will be a presentation followed by a question and answer session. You'll find the question and answer session where you can type your question at the bottom of the screen. However, we would recommend that you wait until the end of the presentation before you start typing in any questions, because we hope a lot of the questions that you may have will be answered within the body of the presentation. So hopefully, we'll have covered a lot of your questions already there. So I also wanted to mention that we won't be answering any questions that are specific to an individual child today. If you've got questions like that and you want to talk in depth about your particular situation and your child, then please do put an inquiry form in, and a member of our team will be able to have a one-to-one conversation with you. So I'm joined here today by a number of colleagues who will be answering all your questions in the Q&A. And I'm also joined by Ruth Young, Head of Secondary, who will be giving us the presentation today on homeschooling secondary. So without further ado, I will hand over to Ruth. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon or evening, where no matter where you are in the globe. It's lovely to have you here today. As Lynn said, the format is, first of all, a presentation. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Wolsey Hall Oxford, what sets us apart from other online providers, and also what your child could experience if you choose to study with us in the secondary phase of the school. I'm primarily going to be talking about secondary, and as Lynn said, we do have other open events coming up where primary is spoken about in more detail. But to give you a little bit of background about Wolsey Hall, I will also talk slightly about primary. So to begin, Wolsey Hall, we've been around since 1894. So if you choose us as your homeschooling provider, you can be assured that you are getting a very experienced team to support you with your homeschooling studies. Obviously, in 1894, we weren't online at that point. We were very much a distance learning college who used the postal service in order to provide courses and learning to students who wished to study from the comfort of their own home. We made the shift online around 12 years ago, and this means that we have got an excellent selection of courses that are very well resourced, and that we are set up in every area of our company to make sure that your child's homeschooling online and offline experience is as good as it can possibly be. Our courses do cover all the way from age 4 up to age 18. So we have our lower and upper primary courses, which link to English National Curriculum and Cambridge Curriculum for ages 4 to 11. And then we move into the lower secondary phase of the school at age 11, moving on to IGCSE and then on to A-level. So by choosing Wolsey Hall Oxford, you are able to ensure that your child's education can be with us from very start until they are ready to leave formal education and look at either university, college, or indeed employment. We are a registered online school of Cambridge Assessment International Education. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment and what that means for us. We are very much a global organisation in that we have students dotted all around the globe. We therefore take great pains to ensure that our courses are relevant to an international audience. And this is one of the reasons that we are registered with Cambridge, because they offer the international GCSE, General Certificate of Secondary Education. Our tutors and our SPMs are available to you as homeschooling families and are able to work with you no matter where you are located in the globe. We're also very proud at Wolsey Hall of the success of our students. On our website, you will see we have got a lovely wall of fame where you can see some of our most recent success stories in terms of where our students have gone on to study, the type of activities that they're involved in outside of Wolsey Hall, because we have a huge range of students that study with us for multiple reasons. So some of our students are elite athletes. Some of our students, mainstream education haven't been the right fit for them, but having found homeschooling, they have excelled and being able to really find the pathways that's enabled them to develop their passions for their subject areas and go on to study, to apprenticeships, to employment that really suits them. One of our very famous past students is Nelson Mandela, and you can read a little bit more about his studies with us a little while ago now on our website as well, if that is of interest. To talk a little bit more now about being a Cambridge school. Cambridge is an internationally recognised exam board. last exam season, that was May, June 22 that I'm referring to, there were over 8 million candidates who took Cambridge exams at IGCSE and A-level. This was in some 160 countries, over 9 regions, and around 10,000 schools across the globe are Cambridge international schools. We're pleased to be part of the Cambridge family and to be a registered school, because it means that we are able to offer our homeschooling families an internationally recognised and accredited curriculum that employers and universities hold in high regard. We also benefit from a close relationship with Cambridge in terms of working with them as one of their first online schools, and we were actually the first Cambridge registered primary school last year. We get support from Cambridge and make sure that our courses and resources are fully up to date. So this is a really great relationship that we have with one of our key exam boards. Our courses also, as well as following Cambridge curriculum, link to English National Curriculum. This means that you can be sure that if you are transitioning from a mainstream education that has followed English National Curriculum into Wolsey Hall, that your previous learning will have relevance in our courses, and you would be able to, if you decided to, transition back into a mainstream ENC school later on. Therefore, with Wolsey Hall, best of both worlds, really. You've got Cambridge curriculum and English National Curriculum to make sure that children have really a full depth and breadth of knowledge. So, talking of reasons why you might wish to think about Wolsey Hall for your homeschooling for your child. Over the years, we developed a very good system in terms of providing a strong partnership between Wolsey Hall, parents and students. For us, the student is at the heart of everything that we do as a homeschooling provider. We really recognise that each child is an individual and that each child needs a personalised education pathway. And it's something that our team at Wolsey Hall of student progress managers and tutors are really keen to provide. Not everyone learns in the same way. Not everyone learns at the same pace. And at Wolsey Hall, you have a team of people who are there to talk about your individual child and their desires, their strengths, their challenges as well. And we're able to offer you a really unique partnership to enable your child to take the subjects, to study the qualifications, and to have the support that they require to gain the best possible qualifications and education experience. Something that does set us a little bit apart from other online schools is the fact that we offer complete placement flexibility. You can enroll with Wolsey Hall year round. We don't have a set start date. So unlike traditional bricks and mortar schools where intake in the UK at least would be for September, or in other parts of the globe, it might be a January start date. At Wolsey Hall, you can enroll on our courses throughout the year. The one thing that I would mention at this point is if you are looking at IGCSE and A-level courses, we have to bear in mind when the external examinations take place to enable you to target an appropriate exam date. Wolsey Hall can't change the external examination dates. They are set by Cambridge International or Pearson EdXL. But essentially, it means that you can start when suits you. It also means that you are picking your subjects and the level at which you are studying in those subject areas. In a mainstream school, a child would standardly join a year group. So an 11-year-old would typically join year 7. This would mean that they follow a curriculum comprised of year 7 level subjects: English, maths, science, computing. At Wolsey Hall, we don't operate in that way. You can pick your subjects and your levels based on your child's strengths, previous learning, and competencies. We have ready tests to support parents in those choices, and we are well placed to give you advice on the best pathways for your child. So you might be a family for whom your child is year 7 age and is studying majority year 7 courses in lower secondary, but they excel in one particular area, or perhaps they're bilingual and they want to study MFL at a higher level. That is not a problem with Wolsey Hall. that can be easily arranged because you are homeschooling, you are in the driving seat of your child's education. It does also mean that if your child finds a certain subject challenging and they're not at the age expected level for that subject, it means you can choose a lower level, and that your child can take a little bit more time, access different resources in order to make that progress and get to where they need to be in the long term. We're very proud of the flexibility that we offer, and we have found that for our homeschooling families who are with us, they cite this as one of the key benefits of Wolsey Hall courses. We are aware that it's very important that you as homeschooling families know what progress your child is making, and that you have relevant documentation to support with authorities in the countries where you are located. To that end, we provide statements of enrolment, certificates of achievement, and completion of course reports. So you know from your perspective as a parent how they're doing, if there are areas that they need to focus on, or potentially what pathways might suit them in the future, but also documents that can be used in other areas as well. As I mentioned about the partnership before, we also have a strong network, including tutors, your academic support, and student progress managers in terms of pastoral support. These teams are ably supported by other people at Wolsey Hall in terms of examination officers, university advice services, and so on. And I'll come on to talk a little bit more about that later. We don't only offer academic courses at Wolsey Hall. As homeschooling families, it's very important that students have the opportunity to connect with others as well outside of the academic sphere. So we have community websites that are both primary and secondary. These community websites have a variety of clubs. There's debate club, there's book club, there are creative writing clubs, photography clubs, and cookery clubs. It gives students a different element to their learning. It allows them to experience a more extracurricular slant to their other Wolsey Hall studies. There's competitions that students can get involved with, and we've had a recent competition where students submitted videos to say what they'd enjoyed most about Wolsey Hall to date, and we had some fantastic entries with students showcasing the learning that they had done and citing that, you know, they've been able to develop in areas that they wouldn't have been able to elsewhere. We also have a virtual library, and in secondary we have a student forum where students can connect with each other and talk about topics that might be of interest to them, not only their subjects, but, you know, the books they've read recently or a film that they'd watched, or just simply connecting with other children of a similar age around the world. So I hope that kind of summarises for you some of the reasons why you might choose Wolsey Hall. So to go on to now a little bit more detail about the secondary phase of our college. And the slide that you're seeing now shows you the secondary journey that a child enrolling with Wolsey Hall would take if they were to stay with us from the entry point in lower secondary all the way through to A level. So in secondary, when a child first enters, they join lower secondary. This is known in mainstream school in the UK as Key Stage 3, and also in a number of international schools overseas. Typically, students at this point of their education would be aged between 11 and 14 years old. In lower secondary, students study a range of subjects. In bricks and mortar schools, that would normally be between 12 and 13 subjects. At Wolsey Hall, we recommend, if we're your sole homeschooling provider, a minimum of 5 subjects in lower secondary. But obviously, the more breadth you study in lower secondary, the more doors open for your future pathways at IGCSE and A level. I always think of lower secondary as a lovely point in time for a child to experience a really diverse range of subject matter, so that they can delve into different subjects at a good level and explore different elements of their personality. Are they creative? Are they more, are they a learner who perhaps might really thrive when looking at analysis in a scientific form? And it just enables students to create this really broad foundation upon which to build when they start to specialise higher up in secondary. So lower secondary typically lasts for 3 years. As I mentioned before, we do offer flexibility, so we are able to talk to prospective families about how previous studies can link into Wolsey Hall, and to suggest if there are subjects where you might feel there is need to study the whole of lower secondary, but you'd like to compress it into a shorter time scale. That is something that our admissions team would be able to talk to you about if that were of interest. So for example, if you have been studying in a non-English curriculum and a non-Cambridge curriculum school, but wish to switch to that for year 7, and your child might actually be a little bit older, we might suggest that you complete the year 7 courses with us, but over, instead of 9 months, over 6 months. And that type of pacing can be discussed when an inquiry form is submitted. After lower secondary, we move into IGCSE or GCSE. Those two names are external qualifications. They are at the same level. They are also known as level 2 qualifications. GCSE is the qualification offered by UK exam boards such as Pearson, or you might have heard of AQA as well, or WJEC. There's a number of exam boards out there. We offer a GCSE in psychology, and the rest of our courses at this level are IGCSE with Cambridge International Education, International General Certificate of Secondary Education. These are the first externally assessed qualifications that students will take with Wolsey Hall, or the courses that they will follow. This is the first point where students start to specialise a little bit more from their lower secondary curriculum. And we suggest that in these year groups, in these years that they study, typically students are aged between 14 to 16, that they would study their core subjects plus a number of optional subjects. And I will come on to talk about curriculum areas in a moment. After GCSE or IGCSE studies, students move on to A-levels. This is the next stage of specialisation in the secondary journey. Students will typically study between 3 to 4 subjects over 2 years, which then lead to externally accredited exams called A-levels, which are the currency for university applications or employment. These courses are obviously, if you can imagine, you've gone from maybe 10 or 12 in lower secondary to 8 to 10 in GCSE to 3 to 4 at A-level. They are very in-depth and they are very challenging, and there is a huge amount of rigor. So we do talk very carefully with families about the right combination of A-level subjects in order to make sure that every child who is with Wolsey Hall has the right qualifications for their future university, college, or employment. In terms of how our courses work, I've mentioned a little bit of this, so I will skate over some of it. Our lower secondary courses are valid for 12 months. That's that, and we think that in general terms they take around 7 to 10 months to complete. In a mainstream school, students were in the UK, they'd start in September, they'd finish in July, and there would be holiday time within those months. So with Wolsey Hall, you actually for lower secondary have quite a bit of flexibility in terms of that course timeline. Our IGCSE and A-level courses are valid for 2 years and typically take around 18 months to 2 years to complete. 18 months would be your standard 2 academic years. We strongly recommend that students do look at taking 18 months to complete IGCSEs and A-levels. This is to ensure that they've been able to explore the subject material in the right amount of depth, that they have been able to spend time digesting their tutor feedback, that they've been able to review and evaluate their work and make improvements as required. We would always suggest that the core subjects are taken over that amount of time. However, we are willing to discuss different timelines with parents depending on your previous curriculum studies. As I mentioned at the beginning, you can start at any time of the year, choose how many subjects to enroll in. Wolsey Hall does not have a timetable that you need to attend. We don't have online lessons, which means that you can make your child's studies fit around you as a family. So if you're traveling, If your child is undertaking training, that could be musical training, could be sports training, your studies can fit around those elements of your life. Our learning does have online elements, but they are not set at specific time zones. So you can really make it work for you. All of our courses are a combination of both online and offline. We really do feel strongly that it's important that children have variety when they learn. The research suggests that someone sitting in front of the screen all day, every day to complete every element of their learning is not conducive to developing those higher order thinking skills. That students learn best when they are switching the style in which they learn. So therefore, our courses incorporate both online. That might be videos within a course, it might be interactive activities, and also offline. So bookwork, practical activities, enrichment activities where students are designing projects and so on, so that you have a range of learning to suit you. This also suits families who perhaps are moving around whilst their child is homeschooling. It means that whilst an internet connection is required, you are able still to continue that learning if, for example, you end up without internet access for a short period of time. At the end of our IGCSE and A-level courses, students take Edexcel or Cambridge external exams. I will talk a little bit more about external exams once I've gone through what our courses include. So when you subscribe to a course with Wolsey Hall, you are not only subscribing to Wolsey Hall and our team and our support and our advice. You also gain course books which will support your child's homeschooling. You will have access to Canvas. Now, you saw Canvas in the first video from Steph. I think she called it, this is your go-to. This is where you will always be looking. It is our learning platform where there are your course details and numerous resources to enhance and enrich your homeschooling experience. Our courses also include assignments. These are key checkpoints within the courses at the end of each module where progress is assessed in the module that has been studied. The assignments are then marked by our tutors and specific and detailed feedback is given that you can be assured will allow them to make the correct progress and target as well later on in the secondary phase that all-important exam technique. So now we're going to meet one of our other secondary students. We're going to meet Oliver, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about his Wolsey Hall experience. I hope you do enjoy.
Hello, and thank you very much for clicking on this video. My name is Oliver, and I'm a Year 8 student homeschooling at Wolsey Hall, living in the UK. I was in full-time education at a normal school. However, when COVID-19 hit, it really showed me how homeschooling could become a permanent reality. In this video, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I'm able to take my IGCSEs early whilst homeschooling with Wolsey Hall and only being 12. So first of all, I'd like to talk about why I chose homeschooling and why it works so well for me. To me, Wolsey Hall seemed like the perfect blend of what I liked about going to normal school and also homeschooling too, giving me the freedom to work at my own pace whilst also having support from my tutors, keeping me on track and setting the curriculum. Another reason why I personally chose homeschooling was the ability to choose different levels of work for different subjects. For example, when I was in school, computer science had been one of my favourite subjects for a long time, but I was getting demotivated with it as I didn't find the work a challenge. However, Wolsey Hall gave me the ability to take up an IGCSE in computer science, and it's enabled me to fall back in love with the subject, and I really enjoy working on the IGCSE now. Currently, with Wolsey Hall, I'm studying English, Maths, Science, History, Geography and French at the Year 8 level. However, Wolsey Hall have also enabled me to take up 2 IGCSEs, one as I mentioned previously, Computer Science, and also Business Studies. This is something I love about Wolsey Hall as they totally support my ability in the courses that they have provided and also allow me to take up higher level subjects that I'm interested in.
So I hope you enjoyed meeting Oliver there. It always brings a smile to my face to see some of our students talking so eloquently and with such great enthusiasm for their Wolsey Hall courses. Oliver picked up there on the flexibility of the levels that you can study with Wolsey Hall. And I'm now going to just talk through briefly the secondary curriculum that we do offer, so you can see the sort of subject range that we have. So it's quite overwhelming in terms of how many subjects are displayed on this slide. So I'll just start off with a brief overview of lower secondary. As you can see, we have our core subjects of English, maths and science offered in lower secondary, along with what is fast becoming the fourth core subject, computing. Computing obviously develops coding and programming, and a number of Wolsey Hall students have actually delved into this area of their own accord and then come to take a computing course to get recognition for the independent work that they have done. Those are the subjects that we would strongly recommend students consider when they're starting lower secondary, the English, maths and science. As you can see, we also offer English as a second language in lower secondary. So this may be good for you if your child has been studying in a non-English curriculum school, as the English second language course in lower secondary will enable them to develop their language acquisition, to quickly make progress in this very important area in order to facilitate their studies in other subjects. After our core subjects, we have a range of other subjects at lower secondary level, and we're constantly reviewing and adding to these subjects as well over time. We offer two different history courses: history, which is UK and European centric, and then an international history course which delves into other areas of history, so Asia Pacific region. Quite different courses. They can be studied alongside each other, but more details of all of our courses can be found on our website, and you can even view sample modules of each of them. We offer a range of humanities in lower secondary so that students can have that broad range that I spoke about earlier, alongside 3 modern foreign languages, French, German, Spanish, and also a Latin and Roman world course, which incorporates both Latin language and classical civilization. I love this course. It reminds me of the Latin that I studied at school, because I think it's fantastic in that it blends together the formality of the Latin language, developing knowledge of how language structure works, as well as looking at the classic civilization elements of the Roman world. We offered a couple of creative courses as well, art and music. These are very hands-on and enable students to take on projects and develop their artistic and musical skills at home. We also have skills for life in lower secondary, which is broadly a personal social health education curriculum, PSHE, but with an international flavour to it. Then moving into IGCSE, again, we have a range of subjects at IGCSE. This is the point that I mentioned earlier where students begin to specialise, and looking down those subject choices, you'll probably notice we have a range of English, maths and science qualifications. I'm sure that during the Q&A there's going to be lots of questions about the different types of science qualifications and mathematics qualifications that we do offer. One thing I would say is, if you are interested in receiving personalised advice for your child about which qualification would suit them best, please do contact us via our website, via live chat, or submitting an inquiry form, and we will be able to direct you to a person who will be able to talk to you about that, as the information in this webinar will be general about those subject areas. At IGCSE, we also offer a range of other subjects such as business studies and economics that are new to students, that they won't have studied these in the lower secondary phase. So students can really pick and choose the subjects to make their IGCSE portfolio that suits them and suits their skills. Moving on into AS and A-level. A-level, just to make it clear, is the overall qualification that is taken at the end of 2 years of study, and these are what you would generally apply to university with. AS is the first year of study of the full A-level. For our Cambridge courses, AS is a standalone qualification that, if taken in the right timeline, can be carried forward to a full A-level. But it's just in case anyone was wondering what the difference was there. At AS and A-level, again, we build upon the courses that we have offered at IGCSE and further add in some additional subjects such as sociology and politics, history of art. Again, all of these subjects can be seen on our website. So if you're interested in our A-level subjects, please do go and have a look at the A-level pages and the sample courses that are there. Moving on to external examinations, our courses prepare students to take their external IGCSE and A-level examinations. Wolsey Hall students take their external exams as private candidates in an exam centre local to them. We have 2 exams officers at Wolsey Hall who are there to support and signpost you to your local examination centres and help you with entering for your external exams. All of our courses, as I've said, are Cambridge or EdXL. These are globally recognised and accredited qualifications that universities and employers take on board around the world. If you look at any university pages, you will notice that they will, in the UK and elsewhere, they will reference A-levels in terms of UCAS points or other acceptances for those universities. Just to say about the A-level a little bit more, as I mentioned earlier, they are very in-depth, high-level subjects once we get to this point of the secondary phase. And as such, we do have entry requirements for A-level. As a rule of thumb, to be accepted onto a Wolsey Hall Oxford A-level, we ask for GCSE, IGCSE, grade C or 4 or above in English language and maths. That is because it's expected for the majority of university applications. However, if you are interested in A-level and you are coming from a different curriculum background, please do contact the admissions team because we're well versed in supporting students who come from a variety of different education backgrounds. There are other additional entry requirements dependent on subject, and these can be seen on our website. Just talking briefly now about the support for families that we've referenced previously, the student progress managers, the SPMs, this person at Wolsey Hall is so important to a homeschooling family. They are the key point of contact for you when you join Wolsey Hall. They will be the person who supports you in terms of monitoring your child's progress with their studies, suggesting modifications if needed to your assignment schedule that they have helped you plan, checking how your child is progressing in terms of their skills and their levels in their subjects, and just make sure that they are there to answer any questions that you might have regarding your child's homeschooling and future studies. They are there as that pastoral link. So when a family enrolls with Wolsey Hall, you are allocated an SPM and you will soon meet them in the first part of your orientation with Wolsey Hall. We also provide tutors for every secondary subject that you would enroll on with Wolsey Hall. The tutors are your academic support for your courses. All of our tutors are experienced in mainstream classrooms. They are UK qualified, and the majority of our tutors are also examiners with exam boards. So you can be assured that the kind of experience you are getting from your academic tutors with Wolsey Hall is one of great experience and great depth of knowledge in terms of the requirements of the external examination boards. Our tutors act as a learning coach to you as a homeschooling family. So they are there, they are on hand via Canvas messaging to answer any questions that you might have as you're progressing through the course. And they are the person that will mark all the subjects assignments that your child completes during the course. The feedback on your assignments is detailed. It identifies areas of strength in order to make sure that your child feels confident in the learning that they have undertaken with us and can really clearly identify the progress that they've made. But they will also provide constructive criticism and points for action in terms of ensuring that your child is making the right progress towards their end goal. So they will identify areas that they might want to revisit. They can provide links to other resources that they may wish to view, and also provide different ways of approaching challenges that they may have found in that module. All of our secondary tutors as well offer virtual meetings at certain points during the course, dependent on the level that is there. This is the standard support that is available for families, and this is what you would see as a homeschooling family on a regular basis, your SPMs and your tutors. We also have a range of additional support for families as well, including a learning support service who can help if your child has any special educational needs, or you want someone to talk to in terms of looking at any individual mentoring. Our learning support service can also help with access arrangements for external exams. Well-being is really important to us at Wolsey Hall. I referenced the community area earlier in terms of providing students with different outlets that they can access to their academic studies. We also provide a wellbeing service to ensure that every child is happy and is making the right progress with our Wolsey Hall courses. We have exams officers on hand to support with examinations, and also have a comprehensive university advice service that can guide you through university applications from the very first point up until offers are received. As well as a personalised university service, we have a standard reference service that can be used if you are applying to universities independently as well. In terms of staying connected with Wolsey Hall, there's a variety of ways. We're an online organisation, so we make great use of all the tools at our disposal. We have our community website, student forums, clubs, as I've said, but for parents, we communicate regularly with you via a range of methods, SPM, newsletters, and we also have parent groups on Facebook where you can interact with other Wolsey Hall parents who are also homeschooling their children at the same phase as you. I do hope that the presentation has been useful. I'm going to pass back over to Lynn now for the Q&A portion.
Thanks, Ruth. I hope everyone found that really useful. Lots of information there. So we're now going to move into our Q&A section. So please do feel free to start typing any questions you may have into the Q&A. We will endeavour to answer as many questions as we can in the time available, but if there's any other questions that you might have after the event, then there's ways that you can speak to us via the Inquire Now, etc., that you can see on the screen at the moment. Just another reminder that we won't be answering questions that are very specific to individual children today. So for those, again, please send in an inquiry and we can talk to you individually about that. Okay, so I'm just going to have a look. We did have a few questions that were also submitted prior to the event, and with both the question and answer that you submit and some of the ones that have been submitted previously, we will also introduce them into a bit of a live discussion so that Ruth can give you a bit more detail on them. Okay, so Ruth, one of the questions that we have is, are all your assignments done on computer or are they handwritten?
Oh, that's a really good one then. And our assignments are quite varied. The majority of our assignments are handwritten. The reason for this is our external exams still are assessed by handwritten means. So it's really important that we are ensuring that students are developing the right skills that they are going to be able to apply in the external exam. So the majority of our assignments for example, English, math, science, would be accessed on Canvas, our learning platform, downloaded and then completed by hand. Now, we do say that students can write by hand with pen, paper, or digital styluses can be used as well in order to complete those assignments, because they're still developing their handwriting technique. Because if you don't practice handwriting, it's really hard to keep to the time constraints of examination technique. There are exceptions to this, though, for certain subjects. So, for example, art and design or music, the assignments may incorporate different sorts of project work. Another subject in lower secondary where this is different is skills for life. Assignments can be submitted in any format because of the way that that particular subject is assessed. It doesn't lead to a formal qualification at IGCSE, for example. So in those areas, you might find students submitting videos or indeed sort of audio files. Within some of our other courses, so modern foreign languages, English second language, we have speaking assignments. These may be recorded as MP3s and submitted via Canvas, or they may actually take place within a call with your tutor. So you might be studying German with us and you've got a speaking assignment, you have your assignment, you prepare for it and you set up a call with your tutor who will then have a conversation with you to really develop those speaking skills. So I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you, Ruth. Sort of a follow-on question really on the assignment side of things. How are assignment schedules decided? The parent understands that you can study at your own pace, but they wanted to understand more about how the assignments are scheduled across the year.
Absolutely. The assignment schedules are designed in conjunction, in discussion with families and your individual SPM. So your SPM would have a welcome call with you and talk about your plan for your family in that year. So for example, are there points in the year where you're not going to be present for studying? Are there points in the year where you're going away and your child will be taking a little bit of time out of their studies, which I hasten to add is recommended. We all need a little bit of downtime every now and again. After that, we would look at the number of assignments that are there in the course that you're going to study, and then schedule them over the year. The assignment schedules can be updated as needed, but in order to provide a student with boundaries in terms of those assignments, we do have a formula that we use to spread out the assignments over the period of time that you are taking the course. When I was talking about the length of time that, say, a lower secondary course takes, it takes between 7 to 10 months. So if you as a family are planning to take your lower secondary course over 7 months, your assignments will come a little bit more closely together. If you're taking it over 10 months, they'd be a little bit more spread out. I hope that helps. It's quite personalised in a nutshell.
Thank you, Ruth. How many classes or subjects do lower secondary need to take? Do you have a recommended study route?
Yeah, I mean, it does come down to the individual homeschooling family. Some of our families use Wolsey Hall for all of their subjects, and they might take up to 10 lower secondary subjects, because as I said, in the mainstream school, students will take between 12 and 13 mainstream lower secondary subjects in Key Stage 3. Other homeschooling families like to work with their child following a different course for a different subject area that they might be interested in. We would say as a minimum 5 subjects in lower secondary. What we would always ask parents to think about is, what are the next steps? So our courses in lower secondary lead on to IGCSE. And a number of the IGCSEs ask for students to have studied those subjects in lower secondary. So to give you one example, History IGCSE draws upon the content that has been studied in lower secondary. So it's really important, if you want to take history at a higher level, that you have studied it in Key Stage 3. Other subjects where that would apply would also be computer science. So if you're a parent who is thinking of embarking upon homeschooling in the lower secondary phase, do look ahead to IGCSE and to A-level and talk to us. We're able to kind of give you some options, give you some thoughts. There's a lovely video, I believe, on our YouTube channel by a student called Kumba, who talks about choosing lower secondary subjects. And it is all about creating a broad, balanced curriculum for your child to follow. Standardly, it would include English, maths, science, humanities, and modern foreign languages, as well as perhaps some more optional subjects like skills for life or global perspectives.
Okay, thank you, Ruth. Now this question, I think internationally in some countries, family or students have to take specific subjects as part of their sort of external exams. So this particular parent is asking, please can you tell me more about the IGCSE exams and what subjects would students be tested on? Are there some compulsory subjects, or how does it work?
Okay, so for IGCSE and GCSE, students would typically study, if they were in a mainstream school, between 8 and 10 subjects. Those subjects would comprise of English, maths, science, plus some additional options. Now, within that, within English, you have English language and English literature. Each of those are individual IGCSEs. For the sciences, we have a range of science qualifications. So we have single sciences where you can take biology, chemistry, physics, which would be 3 IGCSEs. We have a coordinated science course, which covers all 3 sciences and leads to 2 IGCSEs. And we have a combined science IGCSE, which again covers all 3, but leads to 1. So the number of IGCSEs that your core subjects would take up does depend on the level at which you're studying them. There is no compulsory GCSE subjects that we would say students must study apart from English and maths. We always recommend that students study English and maths and science, really, just to ensure that they have got what is required for university applications later. When we look at UK universities, they all require English and maths IGCSE level. So the subjects that students would take would depend on their individual strengths and where they wish to see their future going. But as a recommendation, English, maths, sciences, plus some optional subjects at GCSE. If you're looking at applying for highly competitive university courses, such as medicine, veterinary science, you need to be looking at a much larger number of GCSEs than simply 5 or 6. You are looking more in the 10, 11 range at that point, because universities do want to see that students can cope with academic loading at that level.
Thanks, Ruth. What certificates or transcripts will students get at the successful completion of a year of study?
Sure, we have different reports at the end of each year, but essentially students will receive overview reports of their progress at the end of completion of each course, rather than saying each year, if that's okay. So when courses are completed, you would receive an end of course report overview. So if you're studying 6 lower secondary courses with us, at the end of completion of those lower secondary courses, you would receive a report. We provide also kind of a grade summary overview for IGCSE and A-level as well. However, because those are externally examined qualifications, the really key paperwork that you would require once completing those levels are your external exam certificates, which are issued directly from the exam board.
Thanks, Ruth. I've got a parent actually submitted a question earlier about their child is in a mainstream school, but they want to study some additional subjects because the school doesn't offer them. Is that possible with Wolsey Hall?
Absolutely, yes. That's something that a number of our families do. They might find that their school doesn't offer the IGCSE or A-level choices, or indeed that for IGCSE it's clashed in the option blocks. So they come to Wolsey Hall and their child studies 1 or 2 IGCSE subjects with us. We don't have a minimum number of IGCSEs or courses that you have to study with us. Again, it comes back to that full flexibility. So if you're interested in supplementing your mainstream education with Wolsey Hall courses, please do contact our admissions team via the inquiry form.
Thanks, Ruth. Now, heaven forbid we won't be returning to the sort of the terrible COVID years, but one parent has submitted a question previously. During the period when schools were closed, were you able to provide assessed grades to students?
Yes, we were. For the 2 years where we had school assessed grades or teacher assessed grades, depending which exam board you were working with, Wolsey Hall supported each of our families to ensure that students who had completed their courses with us, who had fulfilled the requirements, were entitled to receive a school assessed grade. We were really pleased with how we were able to cope with that as an online organisation, and the feedback we received both from the exam boards and the entering centres, because all of our Wolsey Hall candidates students are private candidates, was really, really positive, and all of our grades were upheld as well.
Thanks, Ruth. And on the grades situation, can you tell us about your pass rates at IGCSE and A-level, and also maybe a little bit about where our students may go on to even after A-level?
Sure, absolutely. Actually, if you're interested in the statistics related to IGCSE and A-level pass rates, you can visit the page on our website where our exam results are published, and they're broken down in terms of the UK average versus Wolsey Hall. Our students perform exceptionally well in comparison to the main UK average of pass rates. Again, in terms of where our students go on to study, we are proud of all of our students, and I really like to make that clear when we're asked about where students go on to. We again pride ourselves on having that individual at the heart of all of our decisions. University isn't the right route for every child, and for some children it's the perfect route. We want to make sure that every child can achieve their aspirations. So we have some students who go on to study at the very renowned universities, Ivy League, Oxford, every year. However, that might not be of interest to you as a homeschooling family, and you think, no, my child wants to go on and study, music technology, because that's where their passion lies. How will Wolsey Hall support with that? We can support with that. We provide that educational qualification basis to allow people to springboard into different areas of their studies. Our university advice service is well equipped to deal with both UK and international university applications, and also general careers advice. We're very proud of the range of future career options and university choices that our students go on to at Wolsey Hall. And I think I mentioned in the presentation the Wall of Fame page, where you can find out a little bit more about that as well.
Thanks, Ruth. Okay, I think we have now answered all the questions in the Q&A. So it really just leaves me to ask one final question, and Tamara, our admissions officer, has kindly joined us to answer this one. And that's if anyone has any more questions that they think of after the event, or they want to discuss in more detail about their child, what's the best way to do that?
So the first step is to fill in an inquiry form. You can see the link on your screen at the moment, or it's on our website. Fill in an inquiry form that comes to the admissions team, and we will then arrange either a phone call or an online meeting to discuss your child's needs in detail. And that might include, obviously, the entry criteria, the pre-test that we've discussed. We then confirm the fees and any book delivery costs if you're living overseas. And then we move to the application form to confirm which courses your child will be joining us for. So the first step is the inquiry form.
Okay, thank you, Tamara. Okay, so I'd like to extend a really big thank you to everyone for joining us here today, and we really hope you found the session useful and that you've got a really good understanding now of homeschooling with Wolsey Hall Oxford. As Tamara has said, if you do have any further questions, then please do put an inquiry form in. You can have a no obligation chat with one of our admissions officers, and they can talk you through everything that you want to know that's very individual to your child. So please do send us those inquiries in. That's absolutely fine. So once again, a really big thank you to everyone, and have a great rest of day. Thank you.
Thank you.